So I just wanted to update everybody on what we're doing at the nursery. We are going to be turning the nursery into a trade school for high school kids that might want to think about landscaping, either maintenance or landscape construction or gardening as a career, or even nursery work. So what we're doing, this is going to be our classroom, and I wanted to say a big thank you to all the people that have donated to us. Willamette Greystone has donated almost 20 pallets of retaining wall blocks and pavers, and they brought them up from grants past, and so that's very generous of them. So inside the greenhouse we're going to have retaining walls that become not only sales area but also planters. We're going to have soil in them to have plants. Anyway, it's going to be super cool. In the middle section is going to be all pavers. We have a couple different styles of pavers we're going to be using. So the kids are going to be working on all those things, and we're going to teach them about photosynthesis, which is super cool. We're going to talk about all kinds of different plant things. We have also Budget Lumber. Gave us a big discount on the lumber that we use for the end walls. And so, yeah, I want to thank Roger at Budget Lumber. And also Oregon Tool and Supply donated some safety glasses and earplugs for the kids. So yeah, we're just really excited. The kids are coming. October 1st is going to be the first class, and they're coming from Douglas Alternative School or Dillard Alternative School. And yeah, there's 5 kids, and they're going to learn about landscaping and gardening and plant stuff. So there's one other thing I want to talk about is compost. Did someone say compost? Right, I thought so. So compost. So part of the program I want to teach the kids is all of the biology behind compost and turning yard waste back into soil, using that soil to plant more trees or whatever. So anyway, I just think it's an incredible process. I'm fascinated by it. I love compost. I'm crazy. So anyway, I wanted to say thanks to Wet Spot Welding. Preston out there is building us a compost screen. I think it might be his very first compost screen that he's built. It's going to be about 5 feet wide and at a 45-degree angle with the screen on it that I can dump with the tractor, skid steer, or whatever. Dump the soil on, all of the finer material goes through, and that'll be the finished product. And then the heavier stuff that might need to break down a little bit more is going to be separated. So anyway, so the kids are going to learn all about compost. Hopefully they'll be excited as I am about compost. This is where we are in our classroom. Got the retaining walls built, and thanks again to Willamette Greystone for donating the wall block and the pavers. Paver project is coming soon. We did have our first class on Tuesday, and the kids were awesome. They were happy to be here and engaged and wanted to learn this stuff and listen to me talk about it. So we're here at Dillard Alternative School, and we're planting some lavender. We took this, we'll do a before and after picture, of course, but there's a big patch of weeds and unpleasantness, so we stripped all the soil down to bare soil and put down weed fabric, planted I think about 10 lavender plants, and now we're doing some drip irrigation, and we have a pile of bark mulch to spread over the top. So just trying to make this place look a little bit better. All right, thanks. Hi everybody, just wanted to give you a weekly update. Our class this week went fantastic. Let's see, Tuesday we got to use, I got them a bunch of equipment, some mowers and blowers and weed eaters, and we got to use all that stuff and actually in my yard, so I got to benefit from that. But anyway, so yeah, it was great. We had 6 different kids and they all had equipment, and I was like, it was crazy. But anyway, the kids did great. The place got cleaned up really fast. It was amazing. It was like 30 minutes and everything's clean. So it was awesome. And one of the kids didn't have the right shoes, so it was kind of cool. So I said, well, no mowing for you. So we had her, she got to learn about deadheading rhododendrons and cutting back some crocosmia. Anyway, so all the kids had fun. And so that was Tuesday. So Thursday, we harvested our pumpkin patch, which was pretty cool. The kids got to take home pumpkins, which was awesome. They're older kids, but they still like going to the pumpkin patch, I think. Don't tell them I said that. But so we harvested pumpkins, and what else did we do on Thursday? Oh, we got our compost screen from Wet Spot Welding. Preston out there in Wet Spot Welding finished the compost screen, so we got to use that. The kids got to play around with that, dump soil into it and separate. And so that was really cool. And which leads me to our compost. So what we're gonna try and do is have compost available at the nursery by donation. So if you wanna come and support, don't know how, maybe, and you want compost, come and get some compost and make a donation to the class. Anyway, so it's really good material. So, and good to put on your fall and winter gardens before the winter rains come, so that can just replenish nutrients back into the soil. So anyway, so if you're interested in compost, come down to the nursery, get some compost, make a donation. That would be fantastic. So speaking of donations, I wanted to say thank you to Don and Valerie Keaton. They donated this evaporative cooler, which is awesome. Thanks so much, guys. And they came and delivered it. They dropped it off, I think, was it yesterday or the day before? Anyways, very, very generous. Really appreciate that. That's gonna keep our greenhouse classroom cooler in the spring and summer when, the sun comes out and the greenhouse gets super hot. Anyway, so it's gonna be really cool. Everybody, this week's class was amazing. It focused on a concept called permaculture, and what permaculture means to me is designing or creating a system that is so efficient there's next to no waste. So what we ended up doing was we built a structure to house our compost heap, and using pallets as a back wall and greenhouse plastic to kind of trap some of the heat and keep the rain off. The rain, specifically too wet of compost, can become anaerobic, which is less efficient and less hot. So aerobic compost is generates a lot more heat. So more air circulation through the compost pile is a lot more efficient compost. So our main objective was to create a heat source for the greenhouse behind the compost pile that would be efficient, cost-effective, and reliable and free. So that was our goal, and I'll show you some of the different components as we go forward. So follow me to the greenhouse. Here we are in the greenhouse. Our project, we started off with that 300-foot long water coil, buried inside the compost. We figured out a way to protect it from when we're turning the compost with our skid steer. So we have a pallet set up with some T-posts, and another portion of the pipes are covered with another pallet. So just to kind of give us an indicator of where that coil is when we go in and stir it with the skid steer. So that was kind of interesting. So we have from that coil, the water coil, we insulated the pipe that we're transporting to the greenhouse and transporting from the greenhouse back to the coil. So we have insulation on all of the pipe that we're actually moving the water. So kids got to work on that, and they also got to see how different types of plumbing materials and fittings work. So we switched over from PEX to PVC and then back to drip. So all these different plumbing components they got to learn about. We got to learn about recirculating pumps, so that the water that goes from the compost heap coil goes into a cooler that insulates and traps the heat. And then there's a recirculating pump inside this cooler that pumps around our propagation table. So while we had half of the class working on building the propagation table, the other half of the class was busy learning about plant propagation. We used a rooting hormone called indole-butyric acid and how that's naturally occurring in it does a whole lot of different things. We talked about some of those. The propagation process is pretty interesting. Leyland cypress is what we're growing here, or trying to. It's actually pretty difficult to propagate. A lot of the growers stopped propagating them because it takes so long for these plants to root. So I wanted to try something hard. I think we'll do some other plants that are quite a bit easier, just so they can see the process and see more immediate results. There's lots of plants that propagate a lot easier than Leyland cypress. So I like a challenge, so that's why we picked that one. Anyway, so the kids got to learn all about rooting hormones and indifferentiated cells, all these different propagation concepts. So, which all leads to our theme on permaculture, where we tie in the heat from the greenhouse to transfer that heat to the root zone of the cuttings, where we learned that 50 degrees is kind of the magic baseline number for root development. So we learned a lot this week, so it was really cool. The other main focus I wanted this week to be about was to not be afraid to try something you hadn't done before. Personally, I have never built a compost water heater before. Not very many people have. I have seen a few on YouTube, and I used some of those ideas to come up with this. But basically, doing something you haven't done before can be scary if you're afraid of making mistakes. I promised the kids that we would make mistakes throughout this process, and from those mistakes we would move forward and come up with a better solution. So anyway, those mistakes were made, I'm sure. But anyway, we got through and we powered through. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time. Hi everybody, this is our week 10 update. This week we started with some equipment maintenance and learning how to attach and reattach buckets. And I told the kids that this is one of the more challenging things. You have to be precise on your motions to get these pins to line up. So it's kind of a challenging thing, and the kids are learning just how all the different functions and levers work, and how the practice on an excavator helps you just kind of learn. It's just the muscle memory and how these things just become automatic eventually. Some of them are a little bit nervous to try these new things, but I promise them, after a couple weeks of doing this, you're going to be a professional. So they're really doing great. They're learning all the cool tricks. So anyway, we still have tons and tons of compost available. So come down to the nursery and get some compost and help our school program. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Scientific name is You eat everything, even the paper, and it's like a bunch of coffee grounds. So if you leave the lid off, they dive to the bottom. You take the first layer off.
Hi everybody, it's been a while since we've done an update video on our vocational program with Dillard Alternative High School. So I'll do my best to get you up to speed on what we've been up to. Let's see, we have a few ongoing projects that we work on depending on the weather. One is an outside project for dry days, and the other is an inside the greenhouse classroom for rainy days. Let's see, the outside project has mostly been focused on a drainage system that has a lot of aspects to it. Basically, it's a French drain through the lowest part of the nursery that leads to a reservoir made out of pond liner. So all of the nursery runoff water is stored temporarily so we can filter out the excess nitrogen and phosphorus from the fertilizers we use. The reservoir is a bog garden, where we have aquatic plants, absorb the nutrients before the water makes its way to the Looking Glass Creek and then to the South Umpqua River. So anyway, the kids are getting a lot of experience working on the equipment, excavating the trench, and hauling off the soil to create planting areas around the bog garden. They've also learned how to use a laser level to make sure our trench sloped enough to carry the water to the bog, and also to determine what water level would be in the bog. So that was kind of cool. We also had this really cool math lesson where we used some geometry formulas to figure out how much gravel we needed to fill the reservoir. So we used some area calculations and some volume calculations. It was a little difficult, but we got through it. And I think it was nice that the kids got to have some hands-on lessons to help understand, what these formulas are really for. They shouldn't be able to say, when am I ever going to use this in real life? And that's really our goal, is to help give them practical, real-world experience, with the things we're learning here. We're also working on a water feature component for the bog to help aerate the water. We're using our old boat to make a waterfall. You'll have to come see it. It's really pretty cool. It's going to look like the boat was wrecked on some boulders with water pouring out from recirculating pumps. So you'll have to check that out for sure. Some of the inside work we're doing on the greenhouse classroom is we're working on the planter beds in there. We're designing a perennial garden that should have year-round interest. We're choosing plants that'll work well for the conditions in the greenhouse and have bloom times that are spread out throughout the whole year. We also, what do? We also built big trellises for the interior walls and planted thornless climbing roses on the trellises, so that'll be pretty cool. We've also installed a few small ponds in there with filters. We have a lot of work to do on those, but we're making a lot of progress. The kids are really enjoying their time out here, and we're having a lot of fun working with them too. So as far as the nonprofit goes, we're working with an attorney to get all the nonprofit paperwork filled out and filed. We have 6 board members to help make decisions with the program. Most of them are teachers or retired teachers, so I'm really excited to see how that develops. So anyway, stop in or call or message if you want to support the program. And thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.